You meet someone, and within seconds, your pulse picks up, your attention narrows, and your brain registers a sudden, overwhelming pull toward a stranger. Most of us believe we arrive at these feelings through a rational evaluation of traits like humor, intelligence, or shared life goals. However, research into the timing of social judgment shows that conscious thought is the final step in a much faster process. By the time you can name what you like about someone, your brain has already completed an extensive assessment beneath your awareness. Attraction operates through a hidden architecture of biological signals and psychological shortcuts that run constantly in the background of every interaction. The illusion of random destiny fades once the predictable layers of this system become visible. The first layer of attraction often has nothing to do with the individual across from you, but rather the physical space you both inhabit. The mere exposure effect describes how the brain translates familiarity into safety. Repeated neutral contact with a person primes the mind to view them more positively, even in the absence of new information. This was demonstrated in a classic study of MIT dormitory residents, where the physical layout of the building predicted nearly 2/3 of all friendships. Residents living near high-traffic areas like stairwells and entrances formed significantly more connections simply because they were encountered more often. Beyond physical layout, the brain is susceptible to a glitch known as the misattribution of arousal. In a famous field experiment, men who crossed a swaying high-altitude suspension bridge were far more likely to find a woman attractive than those who crossed a stable one. Their brains experienced the racing heart and adrenaline of fear, but incorrectly labeled those symptoms as romantic chemistry. This emotional transfer occurs in various high-stakes environments, from roller coasters to arguments, where physiological intensity is credited to the person standing nearby. These environmental factors influence who we notice and how we rate them, showing that physical proximity and temporary physiological states can manufacture the feeling of a spark. Deeper within the subconscious, the brain uses rapid evolutionary hardware to scan potential mates for survival. Instead of looking for subjective beauty, the brain scans faces for averageness, how closely a face matches the population's typical proportions. Faces that align with this internal template are often perceived as more attractive because the brain associates these cues with health and genetic stability. When a match is identified, the brain triggers a chemical reward system to focus our attention. Biological anthropologist Helen Fisher used fMRI technology to map this response by scanning the brains of people who have recently fallen in love. These scans show that looking at a partner activates the ventral tegmental area, an ancient structure that floods the brain with dopamine. This circuitry is not unique to human romance. It is the same reward system that drives mate choice across the animal kingdom. In an evolutionary context, this dopamine spike serves as a survival strategy, forcing an individual to lock their courtship energy onto one promising partner rather than wasting resources. This biological mechanism prioritizes long-term investment by creating an intense, singular focus on a specific mate. The final layer of human attraction involves cognitive biases that can override our rational assessment of a partner. Research conducted at Boston University and Stanford identified a pattern known as self-essentialist reasoning. When we discover a single shared niche interest with a stranger, the brain often assumes a deep total compatibility. This cognitive shortcut leads us to believe that if someone shares one obscure preference, they must also share our core values and worldview. Carl Jung described an even more complex psychological pull through the concept of the golden shadow. This theory suggests we are drawn to people who vividly embody the repressed or underdeveloped aspects of our own personality. In this framework, a deeply rational person may feel an intense pull towards someone highly expressive and intuitive. In this view, attraction serves as a mirror, where the pull toward another person reflects the unconscious mind seeking to integrate parts of the self it has otherwise disowned. Viewing romance as a series of biological and psychological mechanisms may seem to diminish its emotional weight. However, recognizing attraction as a layered system suggests that connection can be developed through a deliberate process rather than remaining a matter of chance. In 1997, psychologist Arthur Aaron tested this by designing an experiment to accelerate intimacy between strangers in a controlled setting. He utilized a set of 36 questions that required escalating levels of vulnerability. Pairs of strangers moved from light conversation to sharing their most personal memories and fears. This specific pattern of honest disclosure and response closes a loop of trust, triggering the same neurochemical shifts associated with spontaneous chemistry. The ability to foster these feelings through intentional vulnerability suggests that deep connection can be a practiced skill rather than a stroke of luck.